Have you ever wondered what games you should keep or you should lose? Find out here at Purge Reviews.
Here's Escape from Zombie City, Expansion 1, the Survivor Chronicles. I think it's the only expansion that came out also, at least that I'm aware of. You're going to get a rulebook, which we'll take a look at in a few minutes. And then you're going to get a bunch of tiles. So each character that comes will have 2 powers they can utilize. These are nice cardboard too. They could have been cards and they're not. And they will kind of tell you what powers that you have. They're all icons, so they're not very useful, but once you get to know them, they're not too bad. You're going to get standees for new characters. Like I said, each character is going to have its own power, so something to unite. And you're going to get some new tiles that will be in Module 1, which are the challenges. Not a lot in here. You can see the box is way too big for what you get. You're going to get a whole bunch of new characters, some new tokens, and the new character powers. That's it. Not a lot in here. So here's a rule book for expansion number 1. You have 3 languages that it'll be in. It looks like French, German, and English. This will be Module 1. It has all the pictures of the components that you need and how to play. It goes over each tile, which really is just the 6 tiles that you're going to have in there. And then Module 2 has the different characters that explains the powers for each one. That's it. The rest of this is going to be different languages. Very easy to understand. What I would do is if you're going to use the challenges, go over those rules. You know, you're going to pick 1, 2, or 3 of these tiles to put in. Just go over those tiles. You don't need to read everything or explain everything in the book because it's, you know, just explain what you're going to put into the game. Same thing with the characters. They want to be the policeman, explain what those powers are, and ignore the ones that you don't use. I think that's the easiest way to learn this. So the challenges are going to give you, it's the first module, it's going to give you these tiles right here. And what they're basically going to do is just make the game a little bit harder. And that's what they're intended to do. The first one's going to be the pit. You have to have these 2 items when you go to the location and 3 fists and you're done. You're able to accomplish that. What you're going to have here next is the fair, or rather the circus is what you're going to have here. Everybody's going to need to go here at the same time. Then you draw a zombie card and you have accomplished it. This is going to be the rock concert. As soon as one player turns, 3 zombies will come out, and no more tiles can come out until you can beat those 3 zombies. This is probably one of the tougher ones if you ask me. Then here, what you're going to have is the retirement home. You're going to put Grandpa out here. So he's going to show up here, and you have to escort him back. And basically, it costs 2, you can see on here, 2 bats. You have to spend 2 bats to move him to the next tile. You're getting back to the church, and you've accomplished this challenge. Then we're going to have here is the workshop, which is cost 7 fists in order to defeat this. But this is, you'll do this when you're in the van, so not before, in the second half of the game. And then here, what you're going to have is the barricades. You're going to place the barricade token here. You can't come in through the skull location. You're going to come from other ways, and it costs 5 fists to get rid of it. So these are just ways you can add 1, 2, or 3, depending on the challenge level that you want. I don't recommend randomizing this unless you really know the tiles, because you're going to want to explain this to the other players that are playing. So the second module is going to be these characters. And for each character, you're going to get a new standee, and you're going to get the explanation of what they do. So the nerd's going to give you 2 powers that you can utilize during your game. He is going to, if you're in the same location as a zombie, you can use the caution icons to re-roll your own blocked panic dice. If a player rolls 2 fist icons, they can move a zombie to an adjacent location. So that can be kind of helpful. Next, you're going to have Grandma. And what she's going to allow you to do, the caution icon allows the player to reroll all of your panic dice, which normally you can only get 2 back. And then she will, the same street section as a zombie, you can use one of the caution icon to reroll one of the block. Normally you can't roll any. Next, you're going to have the policeman that you have here. When the player fights a zombie, they have an extra fist or bat, depending on what you need. And you can also fight in adjacent locations. Next, we're going to have the shopping queen. If a player is on a street section with a supermarket, they may exchange the items for something different, which can be helpful. And she can carry 2 items at the same time. So instead of just carrying one, she can do both. Next, you're going to have the vendor. You may always enter an adjacent street section. It does not have to be connected by a street. So if it doesn't line up properly, you can still get there. It's kind of helpful. And then when you're performing the drive action during the second phase, the van, only this player needs to roll the entry icons, not everybody. That can be very helpful as they're going through. And lastly, we have the construction worker. If you share the same street section with another player, you may freely exchange dice. You can give them a dice when you usually can't share that. And if you roll 3 bat icons, you can move another player at a different location. Anywhere on the board, they don't have to be next to you. So that's pretty good. So this is Survivor Chronicles Expansion 1. What you're going to get here is 2 modules. The challenges are going to make it more difficult, and the characters are going to make it a little bit easier. Now, I like the challenges a little bit better. I feel like that the characters, while neat, I mean, it really is neat. I like variable powers in games. I like that quite a bit. And these do some neat things. They also make the game so much easier by changing the rules, and the rules is kind of what makes the game a little bit. So I'm not a huge fan of that. The challenges, on the other hand, almost artificially make it hard. You know, here's something to make it a little bit more difficult. you have to do this, it's probably a little bit better if you don't know what title is coming out, although I recommend the first few times you play it, definitely know what's coming out, because otherwise you have to stop the game and explain the rules. So it's very interesting. They feel more like Queenies, which are little small promotional sets, than it does like a full-on expansion. The box is way bigger than what it feels like, and it feels like you're buying 2 promo sets more than you are an expansion. So people may buy. This is something I would recommend getting on a budget. I don't think you need this right away. I think you need to play through the base game for a little bit. But this is a budget title, if you ask me. If you can find this $5-10, I think you definitely could add it in, add some spice, but not necessarily something you must have, if you ask me.